Hi CC2. Today's topic is percent change and percent proportion. Our essential question is, how do you identify the different parts of a percent proportion? So we have already discussed percent proportions and we've discussed percent change. Today we are going to do a review on the topic before the Chapter 7 test. So the first topic we're going to talk about is percent proportions. And remember, for percent proportions, most likely will come in the form of a word problem. But remember, the proportion that you are always going to set up to solve these are looking at part to whole, which is just our part over our whole, and set it equal to the percent, which is the number that's in our percent, over 100. Remember, percentages are always out of 100, so it's always going to be part to whole is equal to the percent over 100. So the type of examples that we're going to see are examples such as the question is asking, what is 30% of 60? So we need to look at what parts are what. So obviously 30% is our percent, and then the of 60. The idea is we need to figure out which is 60 our part or our whole. That is what our decision is going to be. So anytime you see the word of a number, that is always going to be your whole. And then anytime you see the 30%, that's always going to be your percent. That's a simple one. So when we set this up in a part to whole, if we don't know what our part is, then the part is x, and remember our whole is 60, that goes in our denominator, is equal to 30 over 100. So this is a proportion. We've already discussed this in a previous video. You cross multiply, so you get 100 times x is 100x, and set it equal to 30 times 60, which is 1800. Divide by 100 on both sides, because you always divide by the number next to x. You have your giant 1, so you're just left with x equals 18. Alright, another example is going to be 20. Let's say we have 20 is 25% of what number? So now it looks like we need to still figure out, is 20 our part or our whole? So 20 is, where you see this word is, remember that is always your part. The of is always your whole, but we don't know what the whole is because it says of what. So we don't know what the whole is. So since we don't know what the whole is, our x will go in the spot where the whole went in the denominator, and then the part 20 goes in our numerator. And set that equal to 25% is always our percent over 100. So 25 over 100. You're going to cross multiply again. And then you get 25x, because 25 times x, 25x is equal to 20 times 100, which is 2000. Divide by 25 on both sides, because that's the number next to x. X equals 80. So now we are going to talk about one more type of example where, so we've talked about an example where they didn't give you the part. We talked about an example where they didn't give you the whole. So now we're going to talk about one more type of example, and that is when they don't give you the percent. So now they're saying 16 is what percent of 40? So just like we did previously, we needed to talk about which part of this sentence is our part and which is the whole. So remember, 16 is, that word is, that is always going to be our part. And then this of 40 is always our whole. So now when I put this back into my problem, I know 16 is my part, so it's going to go in the numerator. 40 was my whole, so it goes beneath it in the denominator. And we're going to set that equal to, we don't know the percent, so it's x percent over 100. It's always out of 100. So then if we cross multiply, you get 40 times x, which is 40x, equals 16 times 100 equals 1600. If you're going to divide by 40 on both sides, you get x equals 40. And remember, it was a percent, so x equals 40%. So please pay attention, because in the problems that's going to be in your test and on the next page, there are going to be problems where they give you units. So instead of a question like what is 30% of 60, sometimes they'll say 60 pounds. So make sure your answer is written in pounds. Alright. Moving on to our next topic, which is percent change. So we've talked about percent change. We even made a foldable with the 3 steps label. So we're talking about percent change. And remember, in percent change, we have 3 steps. Step 1 was to subtract the new price minus the old price. Step 2 told you to divide by the old price. So divide by the old price. And then step 3 was to multiply by 100. So let's see this example play out. So let's say, for instance, the question is asking us, what is the percent change from $16 to $20? So what is the percent change from $16 to $20? Alright, so this is the question. Step 1 told us that we needed to do the new minus the old. So the new price was 20 because it went from 16 to 20, so 20 is the new price. 20 minus 16 was the old price, and that is equal to 4. 20 minus 16 is 4. Step 2 told us that we needed to divide by the old price, so we're going to take that price of 4 and divide it by the old price, and the old price was 16. And this is equal to 0.25 or 25 hundredths. Step 3 tells us that we need to multiply our answer by 100. So I'm taking that 0.25, bringing it down, multiplying by 100, and then I get 25. Remember, this is percent change, so 25%. Now the next question that they usually ask you, and what the test is going to ask you, is this an increase or decrease? An easy way to figure this out is looking at it from the perspective of, is it a negative number or a positive number? We had all positive values, so it seems like this is an increase. Or you could have just looked at the word problem. It went from $16 to $20. That's increase. That it got higher, so that was a percent change increase. So then now let's take it back a second and look at from backwards. So now it says, what is the percent change from $20 to $15? So same 3 steps. Step 1, we do the new price minus the old price, which was 15 minus 20, and then that is equal to negative 5. So this is the time where we get a negative number, and that's okay. Step 2 says to divide the answer. We got to divide it by the old price. So it's negative 5 divided by the old price, which was 20. And that is equal to negative 0.25. And then step 3 told us that we needed to take this number, negative 0.25, and multiply it by 100, get negative 25%. And then like before, they're going to ask you the question, is it an increase or decrease? If you look at the problem, it went from $20 to $15, so then that was a decrease. Alright, one more last thing before this video is over. We have one more quick topic that we also have already discussed, and that is the idea that we need to look at the discount and percent change multiplier. So, another type of question that you're going to be asked is, what is the decimal or the fraction that can be used from this discount? So some of the questions, so let's say for instance we had a discount going on in a store, and there is 20% discount of $40. Something costs $40 and you get a 20% discount. The question is going to ask you what decimal and fraction can be used. So, previously you were taught that you just change the 20% to a decimal and then you have to multiply it by the cost, subtract it from the original value. Yes, that is how you solve discount problems, but that's not necessarily what this question is asking you. It's saying what decimal and fraction can be used. So, less steps. All you have to do is change this 20% and make it both a decimal and a fraction. So 20% is 0.2 once you move the decimal 2 spaces over in order to find the decimal. But then the fraction is also 20 over 100, because think of how we had our percent on the back side of this sheet. We had the percent as a fraction as 20 over 100. So that is one way to look at this problem. Another way is to look at it as if you're paying 20% off of something, then how much are you paying? And if you are, how much are you? So look at it as if you are taking 20% off, originally you had to pay 100% of it, and you're taking away 20% of it, then that is equal to 80%. So now what you're paying is 80%. And since you're paying 80%, you can write that as both the decimal and a fraction. You can have 0.8 or 80 over 100. This question is going to be asked on the test. That means there are going to be multiple answers that are potentially correct for a given problem. If they're asking for the decimal, that means you could give a discount with 0.2, which is the percent that they give you in the problem. Or you can look at it backwards and say, well, if they're taking 20% off, then that also means I have to pay 80%, which is the opposite. So you can give both answers and they'll both be correct. Right now, you are going to be working on this worksheet. They have very similar questions to the ones we just reviewed on the other page. Please raise your hand if you have any questions. Get started.